Hello, happy Friday. Literally half an hour ago got a cold. Like literally 30 minutes ago. I was fine this morning. Then I went on a tempo run, like a fast run basically in the snow, which was so much fun. I had a blast. But now I have a cold. So I'm very sorry if I'm like all sniffly and nasally throughout this video. I wanted to talk to you guys today about another topic that one of you had requested in my Instagram poll, or actually two of you. And I thought it was such a lovely topic, and I was so excited about making it because it's a topic very close to my heart as well, which is about finding your true self or finding your true identity back after either just mental health struggles in general or after struggling with DPDR, which, especially with depersonalization, it can become very like weird to even still know who you are, and kind of navigating your way back to that. So first of all, what is your true self? Your true self is not something you have to find. It's something that you already are. It's something that you can't become because you already are the truest version of yourself. So often, finding your true self is actually unlayering all these other layers that we've put on top of ourselves based on what we thought we should be, based on who we thought other people expected us to be, based on all these external factors that have taken away our connection to our true self or our true identity. And so what I want to compare it to is the way we look at any of the things in nature. If we think about what is the true self in a flower, it's not to become a bird. It's not to become a like petal of a leaf of grass. It's to become a flower, basically. It's to grow into the most self-actualized expression of that flower. And a flower is not looking for how they should be. They're just completely surrendered to the expression of themselves, and they just grow into this flower. And so the less we actually question who we are sometimes, the more we actually figure it out. Obviously, when you lose your sense of self during DPDR, dissociation, there's also literally the lack of connection with yourself that now that it's returning, maybe is something you also need to navigate a little bit. In spirituality, the sense of true self is the divine and the awareness within ourselves itself, which is quite neutral actually. It doesn't have a lot of qualities. It's just your soul, basically, your divine awareness, that if you are becoming aware of everything and you ask who is aware, that it just takes you to this feeling of me, I am, this feeling of presence. Another good question to figure that out of like what is my true self is asking, what's the part of me that even though my body has like changed over the years, even though my personality maybe has changed, even though my environment has changed, what is the part of me that's always been there, that's always been the same? And that's that presence, this feeling of I am. And that is, in spiritual terms, what they call the self, or what they call the divine self, or the awareness. And what is interesting is that the closer you get to this self, to this awareness, to this presence, the more you'll actually discover the second self, which is the more human self, which is your human identity, right? The flower form. Like, what is your expression of this human, like who are you meant to be as a human? And we often think that it's, either one or the other, but the closer you get to the more spiritual self, the more calm you are, or the more still you can be, or the more present you are, the more you'll actually figure out who you are supposed to be in your human identity. Again, to compare it to the flower is not going to find himself in thinking about what it is or what it's meant to do with its life. It's gonna find its identity in just being that flower, just being present and not thinking and just being surrendered to it. Actually, part of why I got DPDR was because I was having an existential identity crisis of like, who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? Very much in my head, thinking about what I should do and who I should be. And that was very terrifying because I felt very lost in that. And it's actually through the opposite process of meditation and stillness and becoming present and quiet and calm and just surrendering to the present energy of this spiritual awareness, that I actually spontaneously started to be more drawn to certain things. I just started meditating a lot. Like, I was meditating 1 hour a day, sometimes even more. Just sitting with myself in silence, connecting to my awareness. In my recovery course, there's meditations on there that I used to do to actually connect to that. But you could also just research mindfulness meditation or just try meditating by yourself. And what started to happen was, because I started to feel much closer to the sense of spiritual self, things started coming to me. It was very strange. Like, suddenly I had the idea to write a book. And so I wrote a book. It was actually during one of my meditations when I was 3 months in that I had the first thought, which was start a YouTube channel. And it was literally when I was meditating, my eyes were closed. I had no thoughts for like half an hour. I was feeling so good. And it was almost like this thought came into me that said, start a YouTube channel. And I was like, oh my God, that would be amazing. And that's when I made my first video that day. And here I am. And I love doing it. And I love helping people. And it was through the practice of getting closer to my sense of true spiritual self that I started to live more in a surrendered state, and things just started coming to me. Interests, thoughts, like ideas. That's how I started like my YouTube channel, like I said, helping other people, painting, running. It was never something I was actively looking for. These were just ideas that kind of came to me in the moment because I was already so still and peaceful. And that's how your true identity comes to you, is when you most surrender to the person you already are. So how do you find the true self or the spiritual self? Is through meditation and mindfulness. So if that's first of all what you want to connect to more, I would advise you to just find moments in stillness, which is what meditation and mindfulness is really good for. So creating a daily mindfulness practice will help you with that. The second part is the human identity, and there are some things that you could ask yourself, or some questions you could ask yourself to get closer to that again. So questions you can ask is, first of all, what were you like as a child? What did you enjoy as a child? What made you smile? What made you happy? What did you spend your time doing? What were your like interests, your curiosities in life? And just like returning to that childhood energy a little bit is really one of the things that helps you get closer to yourself again. Because as I said, what's covering up your true self is all these expectations, all these layers, all these seriousnesses in life that we kind of layer on top of that child that makes us kind of lose who we already are. So returning to your childhood self really works with that. Doing things that you love to do as a child, even if it feels weird or strange, but just connecting back to that. Second question you can ask is, what are your core values? What are my core values in life? What do I care about? What is important to me? What would I actually like spend my money on? What would I actually like to, if I could start a charity, like what would it be for? What do I value? Just what are your core values? This is sometimes difficult to really pinpoint. But for example, my core values are service. So serving other people, being of service to the people around me, that's very important to me. Sustainability. I've recently become 90% plant-based, for example, because that's something I find really important. Authenticity is also one of my core values, choosing love over fear. So try to think about what are the things that throughout your life you've really valued and you've seen as your core values, or what are they now? Because they also can change over time. So yeah, that's the second question. The third question is, what are your interests? Not your passions, because when we go and look for passions and we find nothing, it becomes frustrating. And most of us don't even have passions. We just have things that we are curious about or interested in. So ask yourself this question. If you had all the money in the world and you never had to work again and you'd feel good, what would you explore? what would you be curiously exploring? Would you be going into nature more? Would you be maybe learning a new sport? Would you be like, what are the things you're interested in that maybe you just haven't really explored in a long time? And, sometimes interests can actually turn into passions. For example, I always had like an interest in running. I was always kind of running a little bit. And recently I joined a running club, which was almost like following the little breadcrumbs of these interests. And now I'm like completely obsessed with running, and I'm always running and I love it so much. And it's become one of my biggest passions. So that's because I had this little interest and I actually followed it instead of saying, well, I don't have time enough, or I'm not interested enough to join a running club. No, you sometimes become passionate because you just try something and it actually matches you and you discover that. The last question is, what are you good in? God has created you with talents for a reason. And also, talents don't always have to be like these big things that you're like crazy creative or really smart, or sometimes it can just be being good at listening, or being good at helping out a friend, or being good at changing tires to a car. Like, exploring what are your talents, like what are you actually good at, because as much as that sometimes doesn't always align with our interests, it usually does, because that's, again, what is the flower good at? It's good at blooming. It's good at being pretty and being beautiful. And that's why, flowers exist, to make us look at them and think, wow, that's amazing. So that's part of their identity. It's part of their purpose in life. So that's the last question you can ask, I guess, to get some direction on where to start working on to get closer to your identity or your truest self. And then the way to work with that information is asking yourself, is my life currently oriented in a way that it supports and nurtures my values, my interests, and my talents, and my inner child as well? And if the answer is yes, you're probably doing exactly what you're meant to do. If the answer is no, then maybe it's time to start maybe rethinking your career, or rethinking your studies or your hobbies, and just exploring that a little bit more. I feel like this video was quite vague. I don't know if that's how you guys feel. I hope you guys did enjoy it and got some ideas from how to start your search to your true higher self again. I want to thank you again for watching, like always, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bye.